Good morning, everyone. Today we'll tackling about a short story entitled "We Ate the Children Last." But first, we will discuss who is the author of the story. Yann Martel is a Canadian writer born on June 25, 1963, in Spain. He's best known for his novel Life of Pi, but he also writes stories that make people think about life, choices, and human nature. We Ate the Children Last is a short story from his 2004 book, The Facts Behind the Helsinki Rockamaches. It talks about what happens when science issues without thinking about right and wrong. The story shows how people turn into like cre- the story shows how people turn into pig-like creatures because of a medical experiment, warning us about the dangers of ignoring ethics in the name of progress. So let's go to the background of the story. This story is set in a dystopian world where a medical procedure using pig organs to cure human diseases goes wrong. People who undergo the procedure start losing their human qualities and begin acting like pigs. Over time, they become desperate, eventually resorting to eating garbage and even children. The story explores the dangers of scientific progress without considering its moral implications. Okay, next we're going to the plot of the story. We Eat the Children Last begins with introduction of an innovative medical procedures that allows scientists to replace human organs with pig organs to treat illnesses. At first, the procedure seems like a miracle, offering hope to people suffering from various diseases. The world is excited about the potential of this medical advancement, and the patients who undergo the surgery initially show signs of improvement. However, as time passes, strange things begin to happen. The patients start losing their human characteristics and becoming more pig-like in their behavior. They act more animalistic, showing signs of aggression and a strong desire of food. The rising action of creating children starts when the patients who underwent the pig organ transplant begin to show strange changes in their behavior. Initially, people are hopeful as the surgery seems to have worked, but soon the patients start acting more like animals than humans. They lose the ability to communicate and start showing aggressive tendencies, as well as a strong urge to eat anything in sight. They begin eating garbage and their behavior becomes increasingly uncontrollable. At first, their changes are downplayed or ignored by society, but as more people undergo the procedure, the situation worsens. The once promising medical breakthrough turns into a nightmare. The transformation from human to animal becomes more evident, and society begins to panic as they realize that the procedure is not the miracle they thought it would be. They thought it would be. This growing tension builds as the patient's condition deteriorates, setting the stage for the dramatic climax of this story. The climax of We Ate the Children Last happens when the patients, in their desperate state, go beyond consuming children. This moment is the peak of the story's tension, as it shows just how far the consequences of the failed medical procedures have gone. The patient's transformation into completely animalistic creatures is complete, and the horror of the situation reaches its peak. This shocking act of eating children highlights the complete breakdown of humanity and society's loss of control over the technology they had once trusted. It's the turning point where the full extent to the disaster becomes undeniable. We Eat the Children Last begins after the climax when the patients, completely transformed into pig like creatures, begin eating children. The shocking reality of their behavior leaves society in chaos, as the once hopeful procedure has led to the catastrophe results. People are now fully aware that the medical breakthrough they had trusted and celebrated has turned into an irreversible disaster. The situation escalates as the patients lose all human qualities, becoming more desperate and animalistic. As the story unfolds in the following action, society tries to grapple with the horror of what has happened. There's a sense of hopelessness as people realize that changes in the patients are permanent and there's no way to undo the damage done by the procedure. The government, medical professionals, and society as a whole are left to pick up the pieces, but nothing can reverse the horrors they've witnessed. People are forced to confront the ethical failure of placing blind trust in science and technology without considering moral implications of such advancements. The once hopeful future now seems bleak and uncertain, with the consequences of human experimentation hanging over society. So the theme of this story is dangers of unchecked progress, or when science goes too far. It's about how pushing science forward without thinking about the risks can lead to serious problems. In the story, scientists create a procedure to use pig organs to cure diseases, but they don't consider the consequences. Instead of helping people, it makes them lose their humanity and turn into pig-like creatures who eat garbage and even children. The team warns that progress can be dangerous if we don't think about how it might hurt people or society. It shows that just because something new is possible doesn't mean it's always a good idea. The story reminds us to be careful and consider the consequences before rushing into new scientific ideas or techniques. So, from my point of view, the theme of the dangers the theme of the story is the dangers of unthinking progress, or when science goes wrong. Is about how rushing into scientific advancement without considering their consequences can lead to terrible outcomes. In the story, scientists created a procedure to replace human organs with pig organs to cure diseases, thinking it would be a groundbreaking success. But they didn't think about the long term effects or the ethical implications of their actions. As a result, the patients who underwent the procedure began losing their human traits and started behaving more like pigs. This transformation led them to eat garbage, and eventually they began to eat children out of desperation. The theme warns us that science and technology can have dangerous side effects if we focus only on progress and ignore the potential harm. The story shows that unchecked advancement without careful thought about its impact on society and humanity can lead to chaos and suffering. It reminds us that just because something is new or possible doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. This story urges us to consider the moral and ethical responsibility that comes with scientific progress. It is a call for caution, reflection, and balance when making decisions that could affect the future of humanity. And the moral of the story is the dangers of unthinking progress, or when science goes wrong. is that moving forward with new ideas without thinking about the risk can lead to big problems. This story shows that science can be helpful, but we don't consider the consequences. It can also go badly. It teaches us that just because something is possible doesn't mean it's a good idea, especially if it harms people. The moral reminds us to think carefully about how new discoveries affect others and to make sure progress is done the right way.